Quotes by Gandhi. I learned from Hussein how to achieve victory while being oppressed.
من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: وأنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول ربي لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكن من الصالحين. ولن يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون. And spend of what we have given you before death comes to one of you, so that he should say, my Lord, why did you not respite me to a near term, so that I should give alms and be of the doers of good deeds. And Allah does not respite a soul when its appointed term has come, and Allah is aware of what you do. Within these two verses that I have mentioned, firstly, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But within these two verses that I've introduced our discussion are hidden many realities that people do not ponder over and reflect. But first, an introduction. When I say an introduction, I need to understand, as we look at something, we need to observe a few things before we can understand what we're about to discuss. We need to understand that we do not innovate. Nothing at all has been innovated. Not this microphone, not this camera, nothing. We change things from one state to another. That's all we do. You remember when you were at school and they said energy is conserved? Potential energy becomes mechanical energy, becomes kinetic energy. All this stuff that we learnt at school, matter is conserved. This is only for us. Energy is conserved, matter is conserved, but for others than us, in this case, other than us, the creator of the universe, he innovates. See, even those that invent things, we said they make things from materials that have been given from Allah Azza wa Jalla. So the beginning we start with, the verse, it says, وَأَنْفِقُوا. Anfiqu means to give. We say nafaqa. It means to maintain or give. Okay? Or what they call alimony, they call it nafaqa. Maintenance, this is what it's called. To give. وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. Here's the thing. Give from what? From what we have given you. To begin with, this is where you need to start thinking. When you're giving from what's not yours. You're giving from what someone else's. Usually we find that easy. You know how, some people look karim b'musriyat ghayro. Some people, they're like that. It's easy for them when it comes to spending from other than their own pocket. And this is what God's saying. I'm going to make it easy for you. Give from what's not really yours, initially. And this reality should be within every believer's heart, and there should not be any doubt with therein at all. Qarun, who was a cousin of Musa, النبي موسى ابن عمران عليه السلام على نبينا وآله وعليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام, what he did that cast him away was he was so rich, and I don't want to go into his story, but his wealth was so immense. When they asked him about this wealth, فأحسن, they said, you know what ahsin means? Do good deeds, give. إن الله يحب المحسنين. What did he say when they said this is what God gave you? He said قال إنما أوتيته على علم عندي. My wealth was from my knowledge. How do they say he knew alchemy? Which alchemy was, if it actually does exist, there is a possibility, a lot of scientists have mentioned this in the past, that there is a study, alchemy is basically where someone can turn a metal into a precious metal. So change the state of a metal, turn metal into gold. And they say this is what he was capable of doing. You meet many people like that. There's a lot of people that will sit there and say, it's from my hard work. You hear this a lot. Everyone works hard. Everyone works hard, those that work. It's relative. Some people work different types of hard. Some people tell you, yeah, I've worked so hard. Yeah, there's other people who work harder than you. They don't make your money. It's not from your hard work. It's not from your hard work. It's from Allah Azza wa Jal. So this is the first mistake that Qarun made. However, in the case of Yusuf alayhi salam, Yusuf, who had nubuwwah, had risala, he had everything that you can imagine. He had knowledge. His whole story is about what? His ability to do what? Interpret dreams. And after he used this ability to gain the position he gained, what did he say? He said, Rabbi, he turned to God, my Lord, my Master. So Rabbi qad ataytani min al-mulk. Oh Allah, you have given me. Just before I continue, this isn't humility on behalf of Yusuf. This is reality. See, humility is when I'm dealing with somebody else. If I have a high position and someone doesn't have that status and I go down towards them, when I deal with them, this is tawadu, this is humility. When you're dealing with God, this is reality. Ragham anfak, as they say. Qasman alayk. This is the reality. Whether you like or not, it is what it is. Allah has this position. And He knows this. Rabbi qad ataytani min al-mulk. You have given me of the kingdom. You made him into a king. وَعَلَّمْتَنِي. Not I know. عَلَّمْتَني وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. Please, take a look at how many people you see. I've seen people study. You see them in an Islamic seminary, they'll do 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in seminary. You meet some people in 5 years, they learn as much as they learn. How? وَعَلَّمْتَنِي. Allah gives knowledge. Allah gives ability. You see this in school. وَعَلَّمْتَنِي مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. Min ta'wil al-hadith. What's that? You taught me the means to get the knowledge. You taught this to me, oh Allah. You gave me, you taught me. You made me from a prisoner to a king. I was a prisoner, oh Ya Rabbil Alameen. I was in prison and you brought me from being a prisoner to a king. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. So whatever favor has been bestowed upon you, know that it's only from Allah. every favor bestowed upon you is Allah's. Do not ever doubt this whatsoever. So the verse says, give of what Allah has given you. من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت. Do it before death is come. Death has come. Why? Because death is imminent. Death is a certainty. It's going to come upon us, and when it does, why is it saying before death approaches? Because when death approaches, what happens? All your actions cease. You can't accumulate any more good deeds. What am I left with? What does the hadith say? إذا مات ابن آدم انقطع عمله. If the son of Adam, the human being, dies, انقطع عمله, the action cease, then the Imam says إلا عن ثلاث, except for three things. He says ولد, he says ثلاث, ولد صالح يدعو له, a good child that supplicates for them. وعلم ينتفع به بعده, and beneficial knowledge. And I'll explain what this is. وصدقة جارية. Okay, firstly, we said ولد صالح, because each one of these carries a different weight. A good son or good child that supplicates for you is what? It's a hit and miss. Why? Firstly, you might not have children to begin with. Someone might not have kids, so he's missed out there. Secondly, what if I have kids and my kids are lousy? I've raised them, they're bad kids. You know those kids that wait for their parents to die and just take the inheritance. You know, I've met people where they'll say, oh, this guy, Allah yarham bayu, his father was a good man, but this guy's a loss, he's a thief. You know, but his father was a good man. I've heard this from people. They say that. So there is a hit and miss. I don't know what's going to happen with my children, if they're going to be good or not. The second one, it says beneficial knowledge. This is also a hit and miss. Firstly, because you need to have this knowledge to begin with. It's not just about writing books. Just write any book. You've seen some people that write books honestly. They say, I just want to write a book to teach someone. I remember one guy, he had got the Risala, Manhaj al-Salihin of Sayyid al-Khu'i. He took the name of Sayyid al-Khu'i off, and he put Ayatollah al-Azma and put his name. And he put it out as a marsha. This is all he did. He took Sayyid al-Khu'i's Manhaj al-Salihin, just changed his name. What are you doing there? It's someone else's work. So firstly, I need to have that knowledge. Secondly, I need to have the ability to share this knowledge. Thirdly, if I do have the knowledge and the ability to share the knowledge, what's the third thing I need? The knowledge I have must be considered. Could be one of those books that people don't benefit from. Look at the dua books. How many dua books are there? Huh? How many different dua? Do you know how many different dua books? There's heaps. Which is the only one everyone has? Mafatih Janan. So Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi is the one that hit. Everyone else, they got reward for it, but it didn't hit. The third one is a guarantee. Why? The third one is the one of most benefit. And we'll explain why. Because we are all able to do this to begin with. Sadaqatun jariyah. A sadaqah that is continuous. Okay. The verse then says, and we're going to see our discussion, but the verse then says, فَيَقُولُ قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول ربي لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب. When death comes, they say, God, give me time. Give me an extension. I want what? What do they want? They want Fergie time. They want extra time so they can play a bit more, you know? Just a bit more time so they can be able to do something extra. Allah doesn't give extra time to the shuhada. Who's he going to give time to? You and me? If the shuhada don't get this extra time. If the anbiya don't get this extra time. Do you remember Sulaiman? When he said to Allah Azza wa Jal, give me extra time? No. Your time has expired. It's time for you to return to your God. Why? Because I'll do it right the second time. You know, people say that. Give me a second chance, I'll do it right again. So he says, فَأَصَّدَّقْ, I will give, وَأَكُنْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Imagine now is your second chance. Imagine now we were all meant to die this very moment. And God says, all right, here's your second chance. I've given you an extension on your life. What are you going to do? Because if we were told that this was the situation, we were told we're going to die, we're going to be given this second chance to give. Because remember, many people on the other side wish for this opportunity. Like, we all know that life is temporal. We know it's temporary. We know it's transitory. No one doesn't know this. And we know the sands of the hourglass are seeping through. Our time is moving. It's going to move along. We know we need to accumulate more good deeds. But no action is more of a manifestation, when I say manifestation, madhar, of faith like charity. Giving in the way of God is a manifestation of what faith is. There is what is obligatory, like your khums and your zakat, and then there is the recommended. Allah does it in a unique way. It's a way where He gives you, then He requests for you to deal with it. Sometimes we do this with our children. You know, when you buy something, you grab one of your kids and you give it out to the other children. Why? So you teach your child to do what? To give. The child is not giving out of his own pocket, it's giving out of your pocket. It's exactly the same. God's given you, and you're spending from what God has given you. And you know what? You're going to get rewarded for it. That's the best part of it. Giving is all about belief. True belief. Why? Because do we really believe our sustenance is with Allah Azza wa Jal, or is it with us? Who do we believe our sustenance with? Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, says, لا يصدق إيمان عبد. That when he mentions here that someone's faith is not true, until when? Hatta. Hatta when? Until when? He says, حتى يكون بما في يد الله أوثق منه بما في يده. Imagine that. Your faith is not true. This is very difficult. Until you have more reliance and more certitude with what is with Allah than what is with you. You know, sometimes people look at their bank account and go, I'm safe. Or they look at their pocket and go, I'm safe. You're supposed to look at that and not feel your security except with Allah. That's when your faith is true. Your faith is true and real when it becomes like that. Do I believe this? If I really do believe this, I should believe this. Why? You take a look at the people that don't give. This is when God, you know, when you want to know who's in the nar, when you read, for example, in Surah Al-Haqqa and Surah Al-Ma'un, okay? There's one, firstly in Surah Al-Haqqa, or I think it's in Surah Al-Mutaffifin, sorry. وَلَمْ نَكُ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ مَا سَلَكَكُمْ, it's Mutaffifin, مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ. What placed you in the fire of hell? The first thing they say, we weren't of the ones that prayed. Then they say, we wouldn't give, we wouldn't feed the poor. So you look at it, the people that don't feed the poor are in saqar, in hell. But then it gets worse than this. When you look at Surah Al-Haqqa and Surah Al-Ma'un, everyone's read. How many of you know Surah Al-Ma'un of Baha? What's the verse? وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينَ. What does that mean? It's not that they don't feed the poor. They don't urge others. They don't encourage others. You know who I'm talking about? You know when you see someone giving to the poor and the person comes up and he says, شو بدك تعطيه? من قال لك he needs? Who told? Don't give him. Who told you this person needs money? They're all actors. They're not poor. See those people? That's what it's talking about. He's not taking from your money, buddy. He hasn't put his hand in your pocket. He's giving. Why are you upset when he gives? وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينَ. That's who God's talking about. This is what's really fearsome. In fact, the Quran, where it says in Surah, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رزقكم الله. Give of what Allah has given you. Once again, قال الذين كفروا. So Allah's already said these are the unbelievers' words. A believer doesn't talk like this. قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه. Should we feed someone whom Allah, they're the same people. You know what? Should we feed the ones that Allah can feed? It's like the same people, the problem of evil people. Why is there suffering in this world? Do you know how many times you have to repeat this to them? This world is a test. Why is there suffering in this world? This world's a test. Why do babies die of coronavirus? This world is a test. Why is there cancer? This world is a test. You repeat it like 50 times. You might as well just put an automated service for them. Just keeps talking to them. The world is a test. The world is a test. Over and over again. So these same people, because they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay. We have waswasa and salah. You see someone does wudu, they want to put the water into their skin. Ghusl, they'll do it 20 years. Salah, dohor, I don't know. Some people do dohor and asr a million times because they make many mistakes. I've never had one person call me and say, listen, I've got waswasa with hummus, I need to pay more money. Everyone has waswasa with everything except when it comes to paying money. No one has waswasa. They've always paid the exact amount. Doesn't happen there. With money, it's just that fear of giving it away. The thing about sadaqah, the beauty about sadaqah and giving, it's different to other actions. When you pray, when you fast, when you hajj, are they accepted or not? We know, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. You need taqwa for your actions to be accepted. Most of your actions, if not all, need taqwa. But not sadaqah. Sadaqah doesn't need taqwa. It does. Sadaqah is different in its own way. أَلَمْ يَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ يَقْبَلُ التَّوْبَةَ عَنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَأْخُذُ الصَّدَقَاتِ. It's a direct deal with Allah Azza wa Jal. Do they not know that Allah accepts repentance from His servants and receives the alms? Allah receives the alms. It's direct with Allah. There are no prerequisites for it. There's no connections with it. It's a direct service with Rabbil Alameen. Al-Imam Abu Abdullah As-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayh says, إن الله تبارك وتعالى يقول ما من شيء إلا وقد وكلت به من يقبضه غيره. There isn't a single thing except I have delegated someone to take, to receive it on my behalf. Whether souls, الذين يتوفاهم الملائكة, isn't that right? Angels take the souls, Azrael. All actions, Allah, messengers, He's put someone there for everything. He says, except what? إلا الصدقة فإني أتلقفها بيدي تلقفا. Allah Azza wa Jal is the recipient of the sadaqah. He's the one that takes it. You're directly dealing with Allah. Is there any action you can think of where you directly deal with Allah? كِرَامًا كَاتِبِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. You got angels writing your good deeds. You got angels counting your good actions, except for the sadaqah. That's why of the etiquette of giving sadaqah is to kiss your hand before you give, because your hand is about to be placed in the hand of God. The only time you'll hear something like this is in bay'ah. Yadullah fawqa aydihim, when they give the bay'ah to Rasulullah or the bay'ah to Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhima wa alihima. Or when you place your hand where? On Hajar al-Aswad or As'ad. In the Kaaba, you place your hand with Allah Azza wa Jal. The only other time, these are times you can't do again. When's the next time you're going to be able to give bay'ah? Okay? And when's the next time how often do people get to touch the Hajar? But when you give sadaqah, your hand goes into the hand of God. Now, there is a story that we have to ponder over when it comes to sadaqah and the way sadaqah works. Once the sixth Imam salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi is traveling with a group of companions and travelers. And some of them, there's merchants among them. They've got money, they're going for their travel to buy and sell. But during the trade season, you know, it's high alert. It's like when you ever watch those National Geographic videos or Planet Earth, when the grazers are migrating, who else is there? The predators. Because, you know, the wildebeest, the antelope, the zebras all crossing the fields, the plains, the savannah plains. The lions are there, the leopards are there, your hyenas are there, your jackals are there, your wild dogs are there. They're all there for what? For the hunt. So like this, in a travel, there's your bush rangers or your highwaymen. And they're waiting. So the people said to the imam, they said, what do we do? How do we take our precautions here? So the imam said, he says, أودعوها من يحفظها ويدفع عنها ويربيها ويجعل الواحد منها أعظم من الدنيا وما فيها ثم يردها ويوفرها عليكم أحوج ما تكونون إليها. What does that mean? He says, entrust it with who? He says, entrust it with whoever, you know, if you think about this, whoever will keep it, you know, he'll keep it secure for you. Who will keep it secure for you? He says, and he'll keep away, basically, I'm going to give you a summary, he'll keep it away. And not only that, he will increase it multifold, and he'll give it to you when you most need it. But you know, sometimes you do something, and you go, I need God's help, but the point where you really need it, that's when it pops up. That moment where you reach the end, God says, here it is. You should have been patient a bit longer. So then they asked, قالوا ومن ذلك؟ قال ذلك رب العالمين. Allahu Akbar. They said, who is this? He says, the Lord of the worlds. Place it with Allah. So they asked, how do we do this? How do we place it with God? How do we place it with God? He said, give sadaqah to who? He says, du'afa al-Muslimin. Give it to du'afa does not mean the weak. Du'afa means the people that are needy. Give it to the Muslims that are needy. You know, sometimes, people have sadaqah tins, and then they call me and they go, can I use the money in the sadaqah tin? When you put it as sadaqah, it's sadaqah. It's for the needy. If you've reached the point where you're impecunious and you need the money, all right, you become needy. But if you just need it, because you need to pay your rego and you can't be bothered touching your term deposit, it's a joke. You put it in the sadaqah, it's going to the poor. That's where it's meant to be going. So they said, but we're all merchants, we're all traders, we all got money. There's no poor people around us. So this is what, I don't know if you ever know, you go on a trip sometimes, you're in a group, they'll collect money off you as you're traveling to give to the poor. Because everyone's on this trip pretty much has money. There's no one there that's in the need. So then they give it to those that are in need. So they said there is no poor amongst us. He said, okay, the Imam, Salam alayhi, he said, make a vow that a third of this is now sadaqah, that you will give to the poor. And then you get the 2/3. Better than getting nothing. You're going to get robbed. So they agreed because it was a good deal for them. So anyway, they agreed. They said, قَدْ عَزَمْنَا. That's why we've agreed with this. Then the Imam said to them, it's beautiful words he says to them. He says, فَأَنْتُمْ فِي أَمَانِ اللَّهِ. It's a beautiful word. You are in the protection of God. Could you imagine you've entered the sanctuary of God? أَنْتُمْ فِي أَمَانِ اللَّهِ. The aman of Allah. Allah is your protector now. Imagine how you'd feel. You feel that Allah is looking over me right now. Allah always has to test you to see where your faith is. As they travel, what happens? A group of highwaymen or bushrangers, قطاعين الطرق, turn up and say, all right, You know, they come out and everyone starts to shiver, shake and tremble. They've come, they look at the imam. They look at the imam, they look at him as in, what the hell's going on here, you know? Do you know what the imam responds before they even speak? He says, كَيْفَ تَخَافُونَ وَأَنْتُمْ فِي أَمَانِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. How is it that you are afraid and you are in the protection of God? What is wrong with people? You're in the protection of God, how are you afraid? How can you be afraid when God's looking over you? So then the highwayman says they turn up and they dismount from the horses and they walk towards the imam. And they say that we saw the Prophet in our dreams. This is actually the narration is narrated on Imam al-Qadim, عليه السلام. He says, we saw the Prophet in our dream and he sent us to protect you. So we're going to travel with you so no other highwaymen. Look at the way, firstly Allah tests the people by bringing the highwaymen. Now he tests the imam to show the position and the status of the imam. He says, now we are here to protect you for the remainder of your journey, so no other qatta'in turuq, no other bush rangers or highwaymen come and cut you off. So the imam salamullah alayhi says, la hajata bina ilaykum فَإِنَّ الَّذِي دَفَعَكُمْ عَنَّا يَدْفَعُهُمْ. We have no need for you. The one that kept you away from attacking us will keep the rest away from attacking us. See, the imam didn't put his... He said, all right, good. Safety in numbers. We've got some guys, they're armed, they're going to look after. He said, no. The one that looked after us the first time, he will look after us the second, the third, and the fourth time. It says they continued on their journey and they fulfilled their vow. When they arrived, they paid a third. The imam says that they came up to his grandfather, Imam Sadiq, and his father, Imam Sadiq, and they said to his father, I said grandfather because there's a narration on Imam al-Rudha and Imam al-Qadim on this, and they said to him, they said to the imam that this travel that we have done, this trade, we have made 10, each dirham we've made 10 times its value. Not only did they of the what we gave, so that third we gave returned to us tenfold on this single journey, just by giving. So they said, فَقَالُوا مَا أَعْظَمْ بَرَكَةَ الصَّادِقِ. This is the barakah of as-sadiq. So the imam says, قد تعرفتم البركة في معاملة الله عز وجل فدوموا عليها. You learnt the blessing. Barakah what? In your wealth. Your wealth has barakah in it. Has blessing in it. You're getting bounties from your wealth. He says, فدوموا, continue to do this forever. Give in the way of Allah and see the results. You know, people sit there and they buy Bitcoin, they buy shares, they're trying to make money. This is the best investment. There's no better investment than this. You want to make turnover? One of the brothers, who's very successful businessman, he's got wealth. Once one of the guys asked him, he said, how did you make all your money? He said, I swear from giving to the poor. He said, you will not believe, from giving to the poor, everything I touch turns to gold. Everything I do works, he says, from giving to the poor. And this isn't someone that would have read this hadith to play around with it. No. This, you meet the guy's a nice bloke. He's not someone that studied in a seminary, but he knows. Because he's tried it. He goes, well, this is giving returns. Not someone sitting at a poker machine slapping his hand silly, trying to get the link. No, this is someone, what? This is someone that gives in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal and gets the results. Now, what is the limit of giving? So we ask that question. How do I give? What's the limit of giving? The sixth Imam عليه السلام says, في السؤال أطعموا ثلاثة إن شئتم. عفوا أطعموا ثلاثة. When someone asks you, he says, feed three, like give to three. He says, إن شئتم أن تزدادوا فازدادوا وإلا فقد أديتم حق يومكم. Okay, يومكم. That you give to three people. Haj Nasser used to give to 30. There's 3 people. But if you want to give more than 3 is what? If you want to give more than 3, it's up to you. But once you've given 3, you've done enough for your day. That's all you're asked to give to more than 3. So 3 people come and ask you on that day. So in other words, imagine 3 people. What are the chances that you're going to have 3 people ask you on that day? Now, there's another thing that people do. It's not about throwing all your money. He, the Imam, the 7th Holy Imam says, لا تبذل لإخوانك من نفسك ما ضره عليك أكثر من منفعته لهم. Don't put yourself in a situation where the loss upon you is going to be greater than the benefit for them. So in other words, I help someone to an extent, but I don't help him to the point where he's going to live in excess, but I'm going to starve. You know what I mean? I give him, if it means that I suffer and let him just live, all right. I'll take more pain than him. But if I'm going to give him, so sometimes I see people that loan people money, okay, because someone wants to open a new business and he's without work. Why are you giving him the money? You need to work. You need your money. You need to invest it. Why is his business more than your work? More important than your work? That's not what you're asked to do here in this way. Now, how do I deal when it comes to this? Allah Azza wa Jal spoke to Musa. When anyone comes to ask you, how do I deal with anyone that asks? He says, Ya Musa, akrim as-sa'il bibadlin yasir or biraddin jamil. Either give them, yasir means even little. If you're not going to give him even a little, he says, or biraddin jamil. Raddin jamil means like Allah ya'tik, Allah yirzak, Allah give you, do dua for them, say not halla anni, get the hell out of it. You've seen some people that abuse a beggar. No, may Allah give you, may Allah increase your sustenance. The only time where you see the Imam speak sternly to someone asking, you know where? There's only one ruway, when they're in the Hajj. I think it's in Arafah or next to the Kaaba, one of those places in Arafah, and the person comes and asks the Imam says, you're on Arafah and you're asking me? This is the only time where the Imam turns sternly on someone. You shouldn't be asking. This is like you're talking about like the mercies you submerge. When you're on Arafah, you feel it around you. The ambient mercy. How could you even ask from other than Allah Azza wa Jal? Now, another question that is asked many times. Someone will ask the Imam here. Remember, this is for your mustahab. So that what's wajib has its own rules, and we don't want to discuss them right now because I want to round up. So the 6th Imam is asked about sadaqah from someone that knocks on the door and asks, I have money. Someone knocks on the door and asks, he says, can I hold on to it because I have a relative that is in need? Or do I give it to the one that knocks on the door? The Imam says, لا بل يبعث بها إلى ما بينه وبينه قرابة فهذا أعظم للأجر. No, he says, don't give it. Don't give it. He says, give it to who? Sometimes people, they get an issue. And they come and say, listen, I've got an issue. The first thing I'll tell you is what? Do you have any poor relatives? So you tell them, do you have poor relatives? If they say no, I'll take it. I'll deal with it. But if you have poor relatives, who should you be giving it to? Your relatives. Because if you give it to the same guy, he's going to be dropping it in his village. You give it to the Sheikh is going to give it to the people he knows. Isn't that right? And it's not going to get dispersed. We're talking about mustahab. We're not talking about the wajib. Wajib has its own laws. The mustahab sadaqah, you're from a village, he's from a village, that person from a village, you have relatives. Anyone here doesn't have relatives that are in need? You give them to relatives that need. This is what the Imam says. In fact, out of all the relatives, they said, Ya Rasulullah. They said, what is? Su'ila Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he says, ayyu sadaqati afdal, which is the best sadaqah you can give. This is the hardest one. أي الصدقة أفضل. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in this hadith, على ذي رحم الكاشح. To give it to a relative that doesn't talk to you. You have a poor relative that doesn't talk to you, that is in need, that's who you give it to. The one that's cut you off. So it's very difficult. A lot of people that say, he doesn't talk to me. No. The relative that doesn't, this is the best sadaqah for you to give, rather than wait until وَلَنْ يُؤَخِّرُ اللَّهُ, as the end of the verse, نَفْسًا إِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهَا وَاللَّهُ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. That Allah will not extend your time. You will not get any extra time when the time comes, and Allah knows of what you do. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those that give from our wealth. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those that are generous in giving. They give in the way of Allah. That when we see poor, we give, and we don't feel any feeling of bad when we give to someone that is in need. Of those that بيطعموا المسكين, the ones that are remembered on the Day of Judgment, of these people would feed the poor. Make us of those, Ya Allah. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to have mercy on our deceased. We ask Allah to cure our sick. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the reappearance of our Master, الحجة بن الحسن المهدي. أرواحنا فداء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتانا وموتاكم. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.